couple of years ago, I posted a video entry in my long-standing series, How Madden Fails at Simulating Football, which was entirely about Longsnappers and how the Madden games, and to be fair, pretty much all football video games in general, have failed to meaningfully model this specialist position. Well, consider this video to be an addendum to that episode about Longsnappers. In direct response to my criticism, both College Football 26 and Madden 26 have partially addressed my complaints by adding a Longsnapper rating for players and by making the Longsnapper be a dedicated position on every team's roster. Thus, there is finally a rating that determines who I should put in my Longsnapper slot on the depth chart. Previously, I was just choosing the player who had the best combination of speed and tackle ratings so that he would hypothetically be better at chasing down and tackling a punt returner. Now, there is an actual rating that supposedly determines how good he is at the actual long snapping. In fact, this addition to the game kind of goes above and beyond what I had asked for in some respects, because it makes Longsnapper into an actual position on the roster, instead of just a position on the depth chart. Even kick returners are not their own dedicated roster position, at least not yet anyway. Now, Longsnappers aren't just tight ends or offensive linemen who are repurposed as Longsnappers. They are their own dedicated roster position who takes up an extra space on a team's 53-man roster. I would have been satisfied with simply having a Longsnapper rating on its own, so EA gets some bonus points for making this a dedicated position. Good job, EA. You did something right. So, did EA finally fix Madden? Should I retract that episode of How Madden Fails to Simulate Football that was about Longsnappers? Well, not so fast. Because my criticism of Madden wasn't simply that there isn't a Longsnapper rating, the criticism was that the Longsnapper had no meaningful effect on gameplay. Madden does not allow long snaps on field goals or punts to be botched or fumbled, so it did not matter who you put in that position since the result would always be the same, a perfectly snapped ball straight to the punter or holder. Now, there's a rating for that, so clearly having a bad long snapper must mean that long snaps can go wrong. Right, EA? Right, EA? Well, I thought I would test to try to find out what is the worst thing that could happen with a bad long snapper. In both College Football and Madden 26, I reset my Longsnapper's long snap rating to 0 and went into practice mode to do dozens of reps of long snaps. I did 20 field goals in each of College Football and Madden to find that it seemed to have absolutely no effect. In those 40 combined reps, I did not notice a single bad snap in either game, nor did I even see a successful block in those 40 combined reps. So I guess the Longsnapper rating doesn't do anything then, does it? But, just to be sure, I also tried doing the same test with punts. I did 20 punt reps with a 0-rated Longsnapper to see what would happen in both games once again. In College Football, I saw no difference. But in Madden, the story was a little bit different. Of the 20 punt reps that I tested in Madden, about 4 or 5 of these resulted in weird sideways long snaps that required the punter to hop to the side in order to catch the punt. There were no instances of a long snap sailing over the punter's head or rolling on the ground in front of him. In fact, I didn't even see a single punt blocked in this testing, since the blocking players followed the same exact path that they would have followed if the punter hadn't needed to step sideways in order to catch the long snap. And so they actually ended up going inside the punter's position and missed what should have been easy block opportunities. So the punt block AI is still pretty friggin' stupid. I increased my Longsnapper rating back up to 100 and retested the punt with 20 more reps. This time, I did not see a single instance of that sideways long snap. Every long snap was perfectly straight to the punter. So, believe it or not, it seems like in Madden, the Longsnapper rating does actually have a tiny effect on long snaps, but only on punts. Maybe I didn't do enough reps of field goals. Maybe bad snaps can happen on field goals too, but I just didn't do enough test reps to see one. I don't know. Please comment below if you've seen any bad snaps in Madden 26 field goals, or if you've seen any completely botched snaps that go over the punter or holder's head or that get drilled into the ground. I'm pretty sure that the long snap rating does not do anything in college football. When the game first released, there was even a glitch in which every player in the country had their long snap rating set to 0 when you started a new dynasty and imported the rosters. This meant that I had to play an entire season of College Football 26's Dynasty with a 0-rated long snapper before I could even try to recruit a new long snapper. Recruiting a long snapper was difficult because the scouting ratings don't show the long snapper rating, and college football does not have that same dedicated long snapper roster position, the one that Madden has. There's also no long snapper archetype in offensive lineman or tight end ratings on the upgrade screens on the player cards. What that means is that you A, can't recruit long snappers, and B, you cannot develop an existing player on your roster into a good long snapper, at least not in College Football 26. Anyway, in that whole season of Dynasty play with that 0-rated long snapper, I never once saw an errant snap. I may have had 1 or 2 kicks blocked, but there was no way to know if that had anything to do with the long snapper rating, since the snap and kick animations did not appear any different than they would appear on any normal block attempt in years past. So, major bummer. Madden appears to have a similar bug with franchise in which most players' long snapper ratings would get reset to 0 when starting a new franchise. I think this may have been fixed, but the implementation was so half-assed that neither game bothered to list the long snapper ratings in the edit rating screen for players, so I couldn't even go in to edit players and fix the problem manually in Dynasty or franchise mode. So this just goes to show that even when EA does try to genuinely fix something, they never seem to be capable of doing it right. So no, I'm not going to be retracting my video about how Madden fails at simulating long snappers, because most of the complaints of that video remain unaddressed by Madden and College Football 26. Until I see the day that a long snap from a bad long snapper can be completely botched and fumbled, I remain convinced that EA Sports still does not adequately simulate long snapping. And interestingly enough, in this year's college football game, I actually did see a bad snap. It was on a regular shotgun snap and not a punt or field goal long snap. I don't know if this is a feature, if this is something that was supposed to happen, or if it's just a glitch in the game that just happened to look like something that happens in real football. Apparently, this is something that is possible, that is doable. Like, figure out what caused this glitch and, like, make that happen on punt or field goal long snaps with snappers with bad long snap ratings. Like, turn it into a feature. P.S. EA, if you make the long snapper rating actually do something, can you also fix the kick return rating so that returners actually have a chance of muffing a kickoff or punt? So that there's actually a reason to put someone with a high return rating into the kick return and punt return slots on the depth chart? That would be swell. Thanks. I would also really like to see logic for returners to have a harder time fielding line drive punts and kicks. This is especially true in Madden, which needs to do a better job of modeling the new dirty kick meta that is taking over the new kickoff rule. I was actually doing these line drive dirty kicks in Madden last year before it caught on in the NFL. And the way that I would do it is that I would angle the kick off to the side and then deliberately overcharge the kick, which would cause it to bounce just inside of the 20, where the returner would not be able to catch it. And it worked really well last year, but it doesn't work anymore this year. EA changed it so that overcharging the kick now apparently just causes the ball to always sail out of bounds, regardless of where you aim it or how accurate the kick meter placement is. And in fact, it worked so well last year that I actually stopped doing it because I was starting to feel like it was exploitative, since the AI didn't understand how to react to it, and the AI didn't know to kick these line drives to me to make it hard for my returners to field it. So if it's something I can do that the AI can't do, then it feels like exploitation, and I usually try not to do that. But even more generally, returners need to have a chance of muffing any return, whether it's a dirty line drive or a regular punt or kick. Just like with the long snap rating, the return rating needs to do something, or else it should not be in the game.